Hey guys, Cryptus here. I made this quick guide to dual wielding PvP patch 5.0 level 85. Topics I'll cover in this video will be a brief cover of dual wield versus two-handers and their pros and cons, talents and glyphs, stat priority and balance, and your basic rotation for dual wielding in PvP. If you want to watch the video from start to end, please do so, but if you're in a hurry and you want to see a specific part of the video, go ahead and click on the icon to whatever category you're interested in. I have went ahead and bookmarked them for you here in the video and down below as well. One thing to remember is game mechanics will be changing as time progresses to Mist of Pandaria. So don't take this video content as a final build, instead view it as a very basic dual wield PvP intro guide to patch 5.0 and into early stages of Mist of Pandaria. Start off dual wield versus two-handers pros and cons. First up, two-handers. You got 1 burst. 2 melee damage increase to all auto attacks and melee strikes. 3 40% bonus to obliterate damage, which is great since it does activate Rhyme, which makes us have a free Howling Blast. So 4 less chance of missing with normal attack versus dual wield. 5 visual appeal. I guess most players like just having a two-handed weapon rather than dual wielding. Some cons. There really aren't cons, I guess. But you can they're just requirements. I don't know. 1 slower attacks due to weapon speed. Yeah. 2 obliterate is still a physical attack. One would imagine that you still use it on cloth, leather, melt, plate in that order. I could be wrong. I don't really know too much about two-handed, but I heard with the recent changes and the implementation of PvP power and the amazing buffs that obliterate has received, maybe it's still viable to use on any class now. 3 again, obliterate does use 2 runes, but it evens out with Rhyme, so again not really a con since we have nothing to really use on holy runes on now. That the product strike is a death rune only. 4, I guess the only real reason I could think of as a con would be you only get 1 weapon rune for enchant, Fallen Crusader, but again many players are perfectly fine with that. From what it seems, pros outweigh the cons heavily. Can't say for sure since I'm not a two-handed death knight, but if you are interested in two-handers, I think I know someone you can go to for more information. Now let's move on to the dual wielding pros and cons. 1, constant damage, meaning more damage over time, so if the fight lasts longer than expected you can rack up those numbers. 2, faster strikes thanks to weapon speed. That's what I like to see, just constant damage flying on the screen. 3, 50% bonus to Frost Strike, which is our main ability to use once mastery is stacked. It helps trigger Runic Empowerment or Runic Corruption, depending on which one you spec into. 4, my favorite part of dual wielding is the double Runeforge enchants. Razor Eyes for that 10% bonus Frost damage on main hand, Fallen Crusader for the offhand. Lately I've noticed I've been getting disarmed a lot or silenced, so I have thought about using our spell breaking or sword breaking enchants that give us a reduction on disarm and a reduction on silent, either whichever one. Because once I get disarmed or silenced, there's really nothing I can do. 5, a visual appeal. Again, I just like the way it looks. I like having two-handed weapons. Now let's look at the cons. Now these are the reasons many people shy away from dual wielding. So 1, nerves are cold still. We no longer have this ability, so our offhand damage is nerfed by 25%. We lose 3% hit bonus. 2, our normal melee swings have a higher chance of missing compared to two-handers, so we miss more often for our auto attacks. 3, Frost Strike may be getting a nerf coming up soon from 50% bonus to 40%. 4, less burst thanks to lower weapon damage. In PvP, burst is always good, but I'm okay with the constant damage flow of dual wielding. 5, obliterates are much weaker since we don't have our 40% damage bonus like two-handers do. 6, if you're not hit or expertise capped, this is probably the most important part. You run the risk of having your strikes, one of your main hand strikes, dodge, parried, or miss, or actually missing, meaning those killing machine procs will only deal half damage. So as you can see, dual wielding can have a bit of a tough time being a fan favorite. So find what suits your playstyle best and go from there. I personally like dual wield, always have played dual wield and probably always will. Now comes talents and glyphs. Personally, this is to each their own. Thanks to the flexibility of the new patch, it is possible to have more than one combination of skills and glyphs. and still be viable in PvP for the moment. But here's what I went with. Tier 1 Unholy Blight, AoE dot application tool, great versus stealth classes, groups, and has a short cooldown, I think 1.5, which isn't too bad. It's also free to use, so that's why I decided it was the best choice for me, because now I could just activate it and apply dots to everyone around me. Tier 2 Lichborn, self-heals sometimes up to 20k in some instances. It helps break CC such as Fear, Charm, and even prevents polymorph time break. And just remember that if you activate Lichborn, remove it if you see a pally or a priest nearby so they don't CC you with a Turn Evil or Shackle. Tier 3 Asphyxiate, the stun. I really like this ability. It's a helpful CC. I use the stun for finishers or silencing if they're immune to stun. So when I'm about to finish them off, I build up Runic power, stun, activate cooldowns, and try to burst away with Frost Strike spam after they've been stunned. Tier 4 Death Pact. Great tool to have. 50% healing providing you don't have a healing debuff on you. So that's about 60 to 70k healing instantly. Has a 2-minute cooldown and your pet remains alive, which is great. And Death Pact is also free to use, unlike in Kata where it did cost Runic power. Tier 5 Runic Corruption. Personally, I enjoy this since once it's stacked up, it can last for about 10 seconds, making my ring regeneration about 4 seconds rather than 9 seconds what it is now. It's nice to have up to about 3 rune activated within seconds rather than 1 at random. Runic Empowerment is still really good. You probably won't tell the difference. Really, it's personal preference. Try them both out, see which one you like. As a reminder, all of these are for level 85. At level 90, things may change. Also, when I reach level 90, I'll see which one of the level 390 towns I'll go ahead and invest in. But for now, I can't really save. Maybe I'll take Remorse this winter for another stun. For Glyphs, major Glyphs, I have Anti-Magic Shield for against casters, since it does provide 100% absorption. Death and Decay. It slows enemies that are in Death and Decay, just like Desecration once did. It's and I think it isn't dispellable, so they can't really dispel it, they have to run out of it. Icy Touch, it is a great dispel ability for fighting casters and healers that put up shields, so I use this a lot in PvP against mages and priests. Minor Glyphs, these are more cosmetic than useful, so I suppose it doesn't matter what you go with, but here's my options. Path of Frost, because I like to fall from high places. Resilient Grip, because it just resets the Death Grip cooldown if the target is immune from a bubble or some ice block. The Geist, Visual Appeal, just makes my undead minion a Geist instead of a little undead. Nothing too drastic. So minors, whatever you want. Majors, those are the ones that you really want to play around with. Gearing and stat priority. The PvP gear, if you notice, there has been a dramatic change in stats for PvP gear. Secondary stats have been added. For example, if your shoulder pieces only had expertise, now they may have expertise and haste. This opens up a door for more reforging opportunities. Trinkets, as you can see, have become more appealing. They have had extra stats added to them as well. I currently have a double DPS trinket equipped for just Battlegrounds, which is, for now is okay. So I use a strength trinket for Battlegrounds, but I'm sure when Arena comes around I'll go with the Mastery PvP trinket to break CC. A full PvP gear is greatly recommended, primarily because of the 2 stats we need to juggle now, is PvP Resilience and PvP Power. You may notice I do have 2 PvE weapons equipped. I chose the Soul Drinker just to test them out in PvP. Since PvP weapons do not currently have PvP power on them, I went with the Soul Drinker one-handers because of the higher weapon damage they have and the free damage that proc Drain Life gives. It's about about 1,000, 1,200 per proc. The healing isn't too bad overall, nothing too drastic, but with the lower HP drop we've all had, during 1BG, I did use a sword and they did heal me for about 5 times the amount of Death Pact, which I use constantly, so that's quite a bit. But yes, when in Arena, I will definitely use PvP weapons at level 90. At level 85 and currently it doesn't seem to be much of a difference, so I just never really bothered with it. I'll probably just continue using them. And for the stat priority is for what we call Master Frost, which is by stacking mastery. So I would go in the order of mastery, followed by haste. So stack as much mastery as possible and reforge haste as a secondary stat. Strength is always good. I use strength gem for my red slots. And PvP resilience, aim for about 65% or more, and for PvP power, aim for about 25% or more. I tend to use yellow and blue gems for PvP power and PvP resilience for those slots in my gear. So here's what I have. Mastery is about 1900 to 2000, which as you can see equals to about 37% base cross damage bonus. Haste is about 1300, which brings my attack speed to about 1.77 and my rune speed to about 9 seconds. Hit rating is over 330, which brings my hit to about 3%, which is hit cap, and this is what you want to aim for in PvP at level 85. Expertise is about 640, which brings it to about 6%, which is expertise cap for PvP at level 85. PvP resilience is around 2500, so just a bit shy from 64%. If I equip my PvP weapons, it does boost me to about 66%. And then PvP power is about 2100, which puts me at about 27%, which is not bad. I'm sure I can make it higher, but this should suffice for now. As a reminder, all of this is for level 85. At level 90, this will all change. So as a recap, mastery, haste, hit, and expertise cap an adequate amount of PvP power and PvP resilience, and you'll do just fine for level 85 at this time. Rotations. There is no real rotation per se, but it all depends on the encounter, to be honest. Whether it's against melee, range, casters, healers, it's always going to be different. This is why I like PvP compared to PvE. It's always something different. I'll share with you the basic rotation that I would do against solo enemies and as well as group enemies. Solo, Outbreak, Death and Decay, Eldritch Blast spams, Chains of Ice to apply slows, Plague Strike to refresh a dot, the end, which leaves me at around 80 to 90 rune power. I then stun, low cooldowns, spam Frost Strike, eventually get to a point that hopefully I can kill them either at that time or use Obliterate if I have to for killing machine procs if I have less than 20 runic power. As for groups, Unholy Blight, Death and Decay, Eldritch Blast. Again, Plague Strike, main target, and then Frost Strike, your main target. At this point, cooldowns are optional. I say this because if you're solo and you're just running into a group, you're probably going to get focus fired and die immediately. So why waste the cooldowns? But if you're with a group of teammates, healers, and other DPS, use cooldowns first before starting your Unholy Blight, and then go from there for the massive AoE damage. Note on certain abilities for dual wielding. Obliterate. Use only when you have killing machine procs and if you have only less than 20 runic power, otherwise you want to use Frost Strike if you have over 20 runic power. Necrotic Strike. Use against casters. Since it does now take a death rune, it's much harder to slip into your rotation, so you really need to be careful with that. It does low damage, but it is good for that 25% slow to casting debuff. Death Strike. If glyphed, great to use, replenish your health after you get a killing blow. You also want to use it when you're receiving heavy damage, and I only use it when I have less than 20 runic power, and to avoid being under that 20 to 30 mark to stay out of that execute range when I'm hitting that low life. To finish off, rotations all depends on the spec you use, the glyphs you have, and the particular playstyle, whether it's two-handed or dual wield. Test things out yourself, find what works and what you're comfortable with. Everyone has a different playstyle, so my rotation may not work for you. I just hope that it helps those who are looking for a starting point, have a general idea of what to use and what not to use. So as a reminder, this was just a basic dual wielding guide to PvP for level 85 before Mr. Pandaria is released. Maybe when Mr. Pandaria comes out, I'll make a level 90 guide. So for now, play with the talents, test them out, see what you like, see what you don't like. You'll realize that most of the combinations you do will be viable if you know how to play them correctly. If you're interested in two-handers and you want to know how that plays versus dual wielding, please look up Mufasaprimes. I've included his YouTube channel and Twitch.tv channel down below. Tell him I sent you. He is far more familiar with two-handers and he can help you with any questions you might have. Dual wielding, if you have any questions or comments, suggestions, I am open to any and all feedback, positive and negative. I'm always willing to try out new things if it's productive criticism, so send me a message on YouTube and I'll go ahead and see what you got to say, and I'm willing to try it out. I usually reply really quick as well. So like and follow if you're interested in watching my live stream. I mostly do PvP. Down below I included my twitch.tv URL. Please follow if you want. Maybe we can join up and do a few battlegrounds together. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe learned a little bit more about dual wielding Death Knights when it comes to PvP. See you in Mr. Pandaria.